Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is episode 5 of Everything You Were Afraid to Ask About Surrogacy. And I'm just going to invite in my collaborator, Jenn White of Bright Futures Families. And then we're going to get going. Hello.
Hey, how are you? That's always the nerve-wracking point, right? Like, can I get in?
That's right. I have charged my phone this time, so it will not
Excellent.
die abruptly at the end
Okay.
of our session, and I can actually post the video. But I do have to say that I have a bit of a cold.
Oh no.
It's January, and we've all gone through like some sort of polar vortex, at least, a good half of the country. And
It's coming back again too. And it's not warming. I don't know how I know you're a couple hours south of me, but it's not going to get above freezing for like the foreseeable future at this point in
no,
time.
I think the
So,
next 10 days, the high in the city was 30. So,
yeah, that's what it's looking like for us too.
yeah.
And I mean, totally outside of the realm of surrogacy, like I have a plowing issue and I'm like, I just need it to warm up enough so I can get a path to my oil tank so the guy can come fill it, Like,
Mhm.
I just need it to be a
Mhm.
little warmer.
Yep. Yep.
It's okay. First world problems.
Well, yeah, that's okay. I mean, the last couple of weeks have been pretty heavy between the storm and everything going on in Minnesota, but
Yep,
life moves on, and
that's exactly
here
right.
we are.
I'm
And
gonna
I,
drink my tea out of my embryo, my choice cup. Like we're all
Mhm.
good. So,
Yep, yep. I don't have my uterus mug with me right now, but
all right, that's
a
all right.
missed
All right, but
opportunity.
we're gonna have I'm actually a little scared for this one because this is rife for hurt feelings. I think is what this is. This conversation could be.
Gonna be great. There is no right answer, but the
Correct.
question is whether surrogacy is easier or more difficult for LGBTQ parents.
Hmm.
And I was starting to think about the lenses through which we view that. And I
Well,
also go ahead.
even between us, like, okay, so obviously you're a part of the LGBTQ community, and I went through infertility as
Right.
unabashed heteronormative, like family. So, like, we, between the two of us, have our positions as to what we saw from our sides, right? And that doesn't mean we're not empathetic to the other side, though.
No, tons of empathy. I
Yeah.
mean, I think the truth is that in some ways it's easier, in some ways it's harder. But I should, even before we dive into just sort of I don't know, my categories are like biologically, financially, psychologically, and then socially. And I think that also involves like matching and societal judgment. And I don't know if there's any other categories you wanted to sort of throw in as
I
we
I
think
actually
about
like
this.
that you broke it down that way because I
Okay.
think that is really helpful because I think sometimes people only are willing to look at like the overall picture. Well,
Right.
some things are more difficult. Like, I mean, let's start with socially, right? Like,
Yeah.
socially, it was absolutely expected that I would be a parent, that we would have, and that we would have no difficulty having
Hmm.
children, right? So we had that side of the social, like, what's wrong with you, right? Like, okay, I mean,
Yeah.
I understand there's no blame in infertility, but that's what the societal norm kind of says. Well, if you can't, like we were taught in high school, right? You look at, if I was to look at a boy wrong, then I was going to get pregnant, right? Like,
That's right.
no, nope, I definitely did not. It took us 7 years of unexplained infertility. Like, that was not the problem.
You didn't just have to wink at Ryan.
Exactly, exactly. So, yeah, so like socially in that way, it's harder.
Yeah.
Like in that because you're not meeting expectation, but the LGBTQ side, like socially, you're
Yeah.
fighting against a very different. I say I'd like to hear your side, how you kind of say that.
Well, let's put matching to one side for a
Yeah.
second and just like focus on like how is it viewed. I was just thinking so Megan Trainor is in the news this week for welcoming a child thanks to
Which is
surrogacy, and
amazing, and I understand the backlash.
incredible.
Yeah.
Yes. And, she was doing skin to skin, and there was that photo, right, that
Mhm.
she posted and that went around. And then, there's a lot of people saying, like, oh, you're basically pretending as though you had carried this child and erasing the surrogate from the picture and, all of
Yeah.
the usual things. And it's like,
Right.
no, this is skin to skin. And she carried two children and had medical
And
reason. And then
even if
also,
she
not, it's none of your
didn't
business. Right.
carry,
That's
even
right.
if she didn't, skin to skin
Right.
is still really important for anybody.
Yes, absolutely. I have the same photo, but nobody is accusing me. So in that sense, I was thinking like the biggest uproar when one of these like hits the headlines, I feel like um it's always I mean, this is society. It's always the women that draw the disproportionate judgment, right? And so like it's Megan Trainor who's judged, it's Paris Hilton who's judged, it's Kim Kardashian who's judged, even though nobody has their medical records, has consulted with their doctors, has no idea the context that brought them to surrogacy and what they went through before doing that. And of course, the surrogate's voice is entirely pushed to the side, and the story of, her empowerment and consent and the stability in her life and her motivations are sort of besides the point.
Right.
And you don't see that with like Anderson Cooper or Andy Cohen or, Elton John or any of the other cis men that have built their family through surrogacy. But men often do get accused of using female bodies, right? So, like, the people that are actually focused on, like, what is the motivation for surrogacy, I feel like just adopt is very easily
Least.
thrown at gay
I was just
men.
that's
That's
my
just,
least favorite. Like
of course.
the word "just" on the front also is almost like it's like a slur, you know?
Yeah, yeah. No, it's insult on injury of like
Hmm.
devalues the beauty of adoption. It simplifies the complications of adoption. It's awful. But I feel like that, there's just like two separate conversations where like the gay men get like, how are you using a woman's body this way? You should have just pursued adoption instead, not understanding all of the barriers that face LGBTQ families
I
in
mean, I will say
pursuing adoption.
heteronormative couples also get the "just adopt"
Right, of
statement as
course.
well. Yeah.
Yeah. But it feels like socially, I would say it's harder for uh I mean, and this also, we're simplifying the conversation by basically talking about cis gay men, like not
Yeah,
the
yeah.
right.
Yeah. No, we're
So
leaving a lot
LGBTQ
out of here.
plus is
We're
okay.
leaving out single parents by choice. We're leaving out
Right.
transgender persons. We're like, we got a
Right.
lot that we have not. It
Yeah.
would be an all night conversation to go through every
Yeah.
fine
Yeah.
detail.
So we're assuming that when we talk about like gay parenting, it's like people that don't have a uterus and like
Yeah.
biologically would never have been able to carry their child. And that's also extends beyond the LGBTQ community to people with like MKRH. I always
Yeah.
forget the
That's all
okay.
right. That's all right. Yeah, they're born without a uterus. So yeah. So
Yeah.
also similarly, yeah.
Right. So
So I mean, before we dive the other direction, like I'm curious, and this is just my curiosity about perspective, because like it is such a classic. Like you go home for the holidays, and your family's like, "When are you having babies?"
mhm.
And like I'm very lucky that our family was very kind and very respectful and did not push that a lot. So I didn't have to face it from my own family a whole lot. So they were amazing about that. But I know a lot of people do, and that it can make holidays and family gatherings extraordinarily difficult. How is that for you? Did you get that? When are you having babies?
um I
And did
think
you
it's
miss that if you didn't? Like, was it hurtful?
I didn't really get it, and I wasn't hurt by that. I was relieved, but that's not true for everybody, right?
Right.
There's a certain like when you get married, that's it seems like the
Expectation.
inevitable next question, right?
Right.
And so, I remember my dad's speech at my brother's wedding was like a minute long, and it was basically like, "Give me grandchildren immediately." To my brother's married to a woman.
Yeah.
And then his, the speeches at my wedding, nobody like we put in our vows to each other that we would extend our family, like we planned to build our family. So we
Yeah,
made our intentions known, but there was, nobody was asking questions about that in the slightest. Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And I mean, I think that's a difference and I think that's different for every person, right? Like as to whether that is a social hurt or not, or makes it socially easier or not. And I think that's exactly where we even started. Like this, everything in this is going to be a wash, right? Because for every
Yeah.
single, like I was really thankful that my family never truly asked about it. I mean, I will say that my sister obviously knew because she donated eggs in my honor to a single gay man, like
Oh, wow.
while we were going through infertility. So like it was obviously, it was known, and our family was very conscious of what we were going through, but they weren't pushy about it.
Yeah.
So which
Yeah.
was amazing. Okay. What do we
Well,
want to tackle
so I mean,
next?
so I was
Oh,
just going to say on the social front, in addition to like, what does family think? What do journalists think, and the broader public, and just societal judgment around these things? It also comes home in matching. And
mm,
so, one of the things that we want to make sure we get right for a surrogate is if she has a preference for helping a certain type of couple or individual based on maybe what they're bringing into this and the history that brings them here. And so, I guess I'll put it back to you, when you talk to surrogates about their matching preferences, do you find, and every agency is going to have a different pool of surrogates with different sort of reasons they came to that agency and things like that. So I don't mean for us to speak for everybody, but for
absolutely not.
you, do you
Absolutely
find it harder or easier to match, a gay male couple versus a
not.
heterosexual couple?
Our population is about 50-50 anyway, so like I don't see a different, because we have a pool on both sides, right, of
Yeah.
heteronormative and same-sex couples. We also actually help a lot of single by choice parents, and
Mhm.
which can be harder actually. That is a population that it's unfair. They're very unfairly maligned, and that can be a little harder to help is what I've found.
Yeah.
I will say that one of the most heartbreaking conversations I had with a surrogate was she came to me and she said, I only want to match with the same sex couple. And I was like, that's amazing. It's wonderful. She lived in Tennessee. And in Tennessee, both parents have to be the gamete provider, which means you can't match with a same sex couple because there's no ability to get parentage in Tennessee. You have to go through an adoption afterwards, and most parents are not willing to do that. And so it was really hard. Like, I was like, so we had a very long conversation about whether that was her only heart towards this, right? Like, because if that
Mhm.
was, then surrogacy wasn't the right path forward for her. And that's okay, right? Like, I was willing to say, hey, this might not be the path for you at all. Or do you just want to pursue surrogacy and help a family somewhere? So that can be the hard part, is that sometimes matching is not even as simple as what you want. It can be where you live too in
Yeah.
this day and age.
Sure, sure. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that's right. I think for most of our surrogates, they don't express a strong preference either way on that front. But there's definitely some that, like, what brought them to surrogacy was that they had a friend who struggled with repeat pregnancy losses or infertility, and or a family member. And so they've always sort of envisioned, like, well, let me help somebody who has been through the whole infertility ringer and has tried carrying themselves, and is turning to this after making those attempts themselves. And then, as you said, we have surrogates that will come to us and say, this is maybe they're a member of the LGBTQ community, and this is sort of
And
a
that's
way of keeping it in the
exactly.
family and paying it forward. Maybe they had to turn to a donor, or needed some help in building their family. That was the motivation for the surrogate who carried my older daughter. So, I think it seems to cut both ways in a way that, at least in our experience, evens out. And so I don't quote like different match times to gay
Right.
couples versus straight couples, because I think, there's a lid for every pot, but it doesn't, for
I
at
say
least
that.
for
I say that
us,
all the
it sort of
time.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I will say, and this is off topic a little bit in this, but I'm curious on your perspective on, because you cued my brain on something that I've had surrogates say, hey, I only want to match with a same-sex couple because if I match with a heteronormative couple, the woman is going to be too pushy.
Yeah.
And I, I will say that is not always my experience. I will say that both heteronormative and same-sex couples
Sure.
have the propensity to either be extraordinarily just like kind and whatever you want, or extraordinarily overbearing and pushy.
Yep.
And it really is the personality of the people, not their sexuality.
I could not agree more, but I think, the more time you spend in these Facebook groups, the more opinions you get from others and horror stories you hear. And ultimately, while there may be agencies like ours where there's a considerable percentage of our intended parents that are members of the LGBTQ community, and there are some, visible representations from like people like Andy Cohen. The reality is that we're still a very small percentage of the intended parents through surrogacy. And so I also think like if they hear a horror story, it's more likely to be a heteronormative couple because it's just like they are 80+% of the intended
Sure.
parent population. And then maybe they're like connecting dots here that
That
wouldn't
aren't
otherwise
actually
be
dots.
connected.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, so statistically they might be wrong, but like because the anecdotes they're hearing are of, an intended mother that did something crazy, like, they're just sort of saying, well, I want to avoid that.
Everyone has. I think every person who's been in surrogacy for more than 20 minutes has I've seen somebody do something crazy story. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got some doozies that just for another day, another day.
Yeah.
So what do we want to hit next? We want to
I
hit
was I was gonna
finances.
yeah, I was gonna do
Finances.
finances because I think there's a clear answer here, and I think like this sometimes just gets lost in the conversation. So
I'd be curious what yours is because I'm not sure there is a clear answer always.
well, I'm saying okay, so if we're putting aside what preceded surrogacy,
Oh, see, okay. So, see, that's the thing is that no, because the thing is you had to have gotten here, right? What got you here?
right? I no, yeah, yes. So
That's why I said I don't think it's
let's
as
say
clear as you think.
okay, if yes, very good point. Um, if you did not have a trouble making embryos with your own gametes, and for whatever reason, never really attempted to carry yourself, and so it's just sort
This
of
would be a really small percentage of population because you don't jump to surrogacy unless you know you can't carry yourself, generally.
right, but there could be a uterine factor that where
Yes.
like
Generally, with heteronormative couples, they still push for you to try at least once. At
yeah.
least once.
Well, so I mean, then I guess it depends on like what did insurance actually cover and like what were your out-of-pocket expenses before getting to this stage. But
Yep.
I will say that typically from an insurance perspective, and if you don't have both egg and sperm within your couple, your family unit, it gets very expensive very quickly just to create
Yes.
embryos
And
before we even get to the surrogacy
I will
portion,
a
I'm
thousand
sure.
percent grant that in a same sex couple, you are
Yeah.
going to a same sex male couple, you are going to need an egg donor, no matter what, right? Like that is so like presuming it's not a family member who's doing this for altruistic and all that stuff, you're still paying all the medical costs, all the attorneys, all the everything else to get to that point. Many heteronormative couples also need egg donors as well, right?
That's right.
So that puts them on equal is this horrible, like we're talking about equal in that something
Yeah.
is horribly unequitable to everybody, right? But it puts them on equal financial footing there. And generally most heteronormative couples though, they didn't know that they needed to go through this,
Right.
and they're going to have gone through many years of expensive testing. Most likely, I mean, yes, there's a lot of states that have insurance mandates now, but uh, what is it? I mean, there's only a few states that will cover even much of anything. I mean, a lot of them are up here in New
Hmm.
England, so I think we're very privileged up here in New England. Um, like that Massachusetts will cover quite a bit, which
Yep.
is great, but most people are not in that position, and so there is generally a very big expense that people already tapped before they've even started their journey a lot of the time.
Yeah. Fair enough. So I think it's really like if you need a donor and you've already been out of pocket a while, like it's going to be harder for you. But
Yeah.
like if you don't need a donor or
Yeah.
you have not spent a considerable amount out of pocket before arriving at your embryos or arriving
Right.
at
And
surrogacy,
I
then
mean, you bet. Okay, we can use like somebody who's born without a uterus. They know they're going to need that. But they did have functioning ovaries, right? Like probably the
yeah.
cheapest surrogacy is death by a thousand paper cuts. The cheapest version of what could
Yeah.
happen there, right? Because you don't need the donor, you don't need any of those things. You already knew. You didn't have to go through multiple transfer attempts, things like that. So yes, it is possible, but
Yeah.
it's also possible that the heteronormative couple could be swung all the way on the far side.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
So no clear cut
Um,
answer on that one either.
No, there is no clear-cut answer. I was just thinking, from a donor perspective, that I usually tell my, people that come to me before having charted out any of this that, they may be paying up to 80,000 or more just in embryo creation with a compensated donor.
Yep.
And that's a massive expense that is wholly separate from the expense of bringing one of those embryos to life through surrogacy.
Can I do like a tiny shout out for, I'm sure you probably have worked with them too, but for anybody who's trying to reduce those costs, co-fertility is amazing.
Mhm.
That you get half of somebody's,
A split program.
it's a split program that she's getting to save some of her eggs and you get the other half of her eggs. So
Yeah.
it's a significantly less expensive. Obviously it's not cheap,
Yeah.
but it can help save costs. So and they're a really great, really ethical program. So sorry,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna throw them right on out there.
No, I mean, I send people to them all the time. Always my little word of warning, if the goal is more than one kid and there's more than one sperm provider and you yourself are doing a split cycle and
That can be a little harder,
you
yeah.
know, but okay, so that's financially.
Okay.
Psychologically, I think I'm throwing in on your side that it is typically easier for LGBTQ couples. There's a
You have to define easier, I guess, in that you have more runway time, right? That doesn't mean
yeah,
it's easier. It just means you had more time to accept that this was
yeah,
how your family was going to be grown.
yes.
Yeah.
Accept, process, and I think then enter this with like a little bit more excitement that is not depending on sort of your personality, not necessarily tinged with like, well, when is the other shoe going to drop? In quite the same way that folks that have hit repeat setbacks. And again, we're painting with the broadest of brushes. Some
Yeah,
of
yeah.
my clients that have been the most like braced for negative news are ones that have had a really difficult surrogacy journey before even coming to us. And so gay male couples are certainly not immune to like extended disappointment in this process or even beforehand.
And also, I mean, I will say that like on the psychological front, as you go through, and what I've had a lot of same-sex couples say to me is like, I don't know how the woman's body works. I feel
Right.
very lost in this
Yeah.
practice. And I'm going to keep shouting people out. I saw Childbirth Allies was here, like watching a little bit earlier. Like they do an amazing thing where they do like a lot of childbirth education, because that's what I find is like a lot of people psychologically, like they're like, none of these
Mhm.
programs, like these birthing classes, they're not
Nope.
set up for us.
Not
And
at
like
all.
you want me to go sit in a hospital in their birthing class with heteronormative couples, and they're talking about the woman who's birthing and like all that, like that it doesn't fit for them because
Yeah.
it's not
Jen,
designed.
Jen and Jamie are sending you some love back.
Woo!
But
I say
yeah,
I love them, so I'll send them all the love in the world. Yeah, no, and that's what, because
absolutely.
they support amazing, and they obviously also support heteronormative couples because it's the same issue there too.
Yeah.
But it's very, I mean, we're kind of trying to like go for the psychological impact of
Yeah.
that, is that like I was handed babies all the time and told to babysit them and change diapers and all that stuff, and it was just the expectation is very
Yeah.
different for same sex versus heteronormative, in that like how you prep to have a baby and have a family and things like that. So like on that end, the psychological is a little different, especially in how people treat you as you're waiting for your family to be completed or to be grown.
Yeah, 100%. And I think even in the best of circumstances, this is a very lonely process to go through. But I think, again, speaking with a very broad brush, like societally, it is more often the case that women in particular have some sort of community of like folks that have been with them up like through this stage, know their history, and again, this
I,
is not
I'll
true
say
to a
that's
person, but
I'll say that's improving a lot now.
yeah,
So my kiddo just turned 20 last week. So my infertility journey was a lot of years ago,
yeah,
and nobody talked about it
yeah,
at all. And so it was one of the most lonely and isolating things to ever go through is that, like I was told, we watch people, and especially in the military, lots of young families, people having babies all the
sure,
time. And, my husband was an officer, so I was expected to go to all of the baby showers and just sit there and smile. And why don't you have kids? Is the
yeah,
constant, like, so psychologically, it was very draining to have to dance around. We would love to have kids,
we're
but I
trying.
also am not going to share this with you,
Yeah,
like all this information with you. So, but I mean, and that's why I'm a huge supporter of like Resolve and All Paths and things like that, because they're here to make people not feel as alone.
yeah,
And that's what it's like. I felt so alone. I never want anybody to feel alone or at that isolated again. You can never take somebody's privacy away from them, right? Like some people are just really ultimately very private people and don't want to share those things. But any possibility to make people the psychological, the loneliness of it, and even with groups like that, culturally, a lot of times for a lot of people it can be very lonely because you can't share with your family, or it's just not
yeah,
acceptable to be going through surrogacy. I mean, I've helped families that there's, we always ask, like, who have you told? Who are your
right,
support around you? And I've had people say, we can't tell anybody because we just can't, because culturally this is not okay. And they would be upset with us. I mean, there definitely are some cultures where like they won't even tell their children. I've helped people from countries where surrogacy is absolutely not legal, and
yeah,
that they like have had to come and say that they birthed the child in the United States. I mean, it's so like it can be really isolating to have to go through this.
yeah. No, I mean, this process is never psychologically easy. It's just
No.
hard and harder, and yeah, it ends up being a very individualized assessment. But I just think there's so many couples, I guess, of all stripes that I talk to that don't know anybody that's been through this before.
Yeah.
Like, right, just are starting from a place of like, I have no idea how this works. I've been
Yeah.
Googling around a lot and trying to figure this out.
Dr. Google is scary, but yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I'll
Um,
say I'll plug for both of us. Like Dr. Google is scary. I'm sure
mhm.
you do free consults. I definitely do. Like I don't even care if people end up coming on board with me. Like I
Not at
would
all.
I would rather educate people and make sure that they have the right tools to find the right program for them
Right.
rather than try to figure it out through Dr. Google.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, even if they don't have embryos yet, just like understanding that the whole
How
lay
to
of
get
the
to that
landscape there.
point. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. So far we basically have
We have three
tie,
draws.
tie,
Yeah.
tie.
We have
Everybody.
three
It's difficult
ties.
for everybody.
Correct.
And then biologically, I don't know, there's it's hard to go through infertility and to go through loss. It's also hard to never have had the ability to start a family, like that might be genetically yours within your couple
Mhm.
without assistance, and um figuring out the path that's right for you, whether it's fostering to adopt, or domestic or international adoption, or
Right.
IVF and surrogacy. And it's not, I don't know, biologically, it's
It,
again, it's just hard
well,
for
and it's
everybody.
it's tough because I mean, okay, so surrogacy in a heteronormative couple, again with no donor, right? Like you can say, okay, biologically it's yours, but your body this goes
Yeah.
kind of partly to psychological part of this, but you feel like your body psychologically failed you. Your body, it just biologically failed you, right?
Right.
Like you didn't get to do what biology said you were supposed to do. But for a same-sex couple, like that dream, like okay, like great, I have a child that is both mine and Ryan's biologically, right? You don't, you're starting from a very different place, which is much more difficult, that you will not be able to until whatever it is, mitogenesis, the with the
Yeah,
skin cell thing.
gametogenesis.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
With the skin cells, like, but until that becomes, a real thing, like, well, yes, I mean, and
Yeah.
I never ask anybody the biological of their children, but like your children may potentially be biologically related by the egg donor, right?
Yep.
But it could be that it could be a situation where one of you is never able to be biologically related to your children, or if you only have one, right? Like, how do
That's
you
right.
make those heartbreaking decisions when you only have enough financially to be able to have one child?
Mm.
And so you're definitely starting from a harder position than a heteronormative couple, which at least starts with the potential for that opportunity. They may end up having to go to donor gametes at some point, but it's it's a harder start. So I kind of tip a little towards you guys for that one.
Do
So
we win? Do we win the hardship
it's a
Olympics?
it's a teeny tiny win, but yeah. Because there's plenty of
Yeah.
reasons why like otherwise, but we touch a sliver of it. So
Sure. And then, we didn't even, we're sort of at the half hour mark. We didn't even talk about raising children, right? Like
that's that.
getting to Mother's Day and Father's Day. And, the assignment for my older daughter this very week, it was about her ancestry. And I was like, well, it's a little complicated. Do you mean
I
my ancestry and daddy's ancestry, or do you mean your donor's ancestry and,
right.
your bio dad's ancestry? And how do we go about answering this question at a kindergarten level?
Well, and even, I mean, I felt this to a little bit on the military, like when Ryan was deployed a lot, like they do like donuts for dad.
Yep.
And I'm like,
Yep.
well, I'm solo parenting right now. Like,
Yeah.
and that is actually really hurtful. So like the muffins for moms, right? Like you're in the same situation.
Okay.
Like you're like, we don't get to participate, even though we are both active,
Yes.
amazing parents for our child, and you're excluding part of the population at this point in time. So yeah, so like socially, culturally, our society still is set up very much towards a two-parent heteronormative uh,
Yes.
family,
And
and that is not fair, right?
right. And operates under the assumption that both of those parents are genetically the parents as well, and that
And then we
social
can
and
talk
genetic
about
parenthood are one and the same. And
three-parent families, and then there's a lot
yes,
of other, yeah.
yes, yes, we are. Yeah. Well, that probably is. We don't have time today.
No, that may be a topic for another time. So
All right.
goodies with guardians. I love that.
I didn't. That's great. Yeah, last year it was still donuts with dad and muffins with mom at my
Mhm.
daughter's pre-K, and I had to raise my hand and be like, "Well, do I
Do I get to,
do I go to the muffins one or?"
right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, I have a lot of problems with those, and gendered
yeah.
language, and that's okay. You know what?
We're
We will
making
all.
incremental progress.
I
Maybe.
love that society is making progress, right? Like I look at my kiddo and watch the world and how different it is now when they're 20 versus when they were born.
Yeah.
And just the strides are amazing, which means we're gonna you have to remember, like every generation is an improvement on the, like learns from the one before. And so like we just have to have a tiny bit of patience and get through a lot of things right now, right? But that's
Yes.
but hopefully this means the next generation will be even better.
Yes. I, I'm I'm generally on board with you. I'm a little scared of teenage boys right now, but you
Yeah,
know,
I mean, teenage boys
this
are
too
always
shall
scary.
pass.
Teenage boys are always scary, so it's fine. Traditionally, I've always been.
Awesome. All right. So we're doing this again in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
And
Do you know what our topic is?
I have it right here. We're breaking down compensation. So, how does
Mm,
compensation work? How do surrogates decide on their compensation and what makes sense for them?
mm.
So, there's a lot
We're
to
going to
be
talk about
said.
like all the weird goodies and extras that some of the people put out there too. Like,
Goodies with guardians.
yeah, goodies with
All right.
guardians that are
You,
also financial goodies with guardians, I guess.
yes, yes. You mean like the spa packages and yeah.
Yeah, the we'll pay for your family vacation. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
set
There's
us
some
set
interesting
a
ones out there.
set aside a educational trust fund for your
I
children.
saw that one this
Hmm.
today. So yeah,
Always something new. I think you and I are kind of straight down the middle, but we'll talk
pretty
about
well,
all of it.
pretty well. Excellent. I look forward to it. So,
Awesome. All right, everybody out there, continue. However many of you do watch these things, continue to tune in and send us topics. Like
please,
DM us, let us know what you want us to talk about. We don't prepare that much for these, so
no,
we'll
no,
do whatever you want us to do.
love it. Awesome. All right.
All right.
Thank you. See
Yeah.
everybody.
Take care, Jen. Bye.
Bye.